On this episode of Just Seen It, we review Stand Up Guys, starring Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, and Alan Arkin.
You were stand-up all the way.
You and Doc would have done the same.
Well, I would like to think so.
It's possible. Either way is possible. But you did it, Val.
True.
I agree with you in the fact that it is a little bumpy, especially in the first half hour. But from my perspective, when Alan Arkin comes in, and Alan Arkin is the coolest man on earth, so when he comes in, the film gets its momentum going.
Based on the novel by Jack Kerouac, On the Road.
I just want a house. Baby. You know, something normal. I really do want that.
Part of the skill of adapting a book is figuring out how to adapt something that works in the book medium to the film medium. And they kind of left a little bit of that behind when they did this. It's almost a literal adaptation.
And from director Catherine Bigelow, Zero Dark 30.
There are two narratives about the location of Osama bin Laden. The one that you're most familiar with is that UBL is hiding in a cave in the tribal areas, that he's surrounded by a large contingent of loyal fighters.
Jessica Chastain plays Maya, who's a CIA agent obsessed with finding bin Laden, and she does.
All right here on Just Seen It. After years in prison, Val is sent free.
So what do you want to do now you're out, Val?
I always wanted to finish high school.
So he reunites with his partners in crimes, Doc and Hirsch.
It's like the old days, isn't it?
No, it's better.
But Doc has secret orders to kill Val and must figure a way out of his dilemma in Stand Up Guys.
Hi, I'm Liz.
Salim.
And I'm Brenna. And we're sitting here to talk about a couple stand-up guys. We've all just seen it.
You know, going into this movie, I was really excited. You got Al Pacino, you got Christopher Walken playing old gangster dudes who are in a buddy comedy together. I mean, what could go wrong? Unfortunately, there are quite a few bumpy moments here and there. I mean, the comedy's there, but it's a little stilted sometimes. Sometimes the jokes, they kind of fall flat, and they're dependent a little bit too much on improv comedy, and sometimes it doesn't work.
I agree with you in the fact that it is a little bumpy, especially in the first half hour. But from my perspective, when Alan Arkin comes in, and Alan Arkin is the coolest man on earth, so when he comes in, the film gets its momentum going. But for that first half hour, we have a very overly eager, idealistic script with Christopher Walken being Christopher Walken and Al Pacino being Al Pacino, and it only works because we know them as Al Pacino and Christopher Walken, because of their personalities.
Exactly.
I can't believe you guys didn't work together all this time.
No. Clap hands were tired. That was that.
And it was. He can't forgive himself, so everybody else has got to pay.
The beauty of this film is it's just cool to watch these guys hang out and interact with each other.
It is fun, but then it does delve into the crazy a little bit too much in the last half of the movie. Because the whole movie pretty much takes place over the course of one day. And a lot of really, really crazy things start happening. And it gets to a point where you're just kind of like, okay, what's the next really ridiculously crazy thing that's going to happen to these three?
There's a scene where Al Pacino walks up to some chick at a club. First, he's very disgusting with her. And then he's like, I'm sorry for being really disgusting with you, but I just want to dance. And keep in mind, this is an old guy who just got out of jail with his shirt unbuttoned down to here and his chest hair showing. Would never happen that this 20-something in a cocktail dress would dance with him, but it's Al Pacino.
I do have to say that when they show the coverage on her, she's in such wonderment of Al Pacino that's hard to believe.
Yeah, I feel like the movie does that. It has some moments that are really funny, you know, realistic for old dudes, and then it kind of veers into a little too slapsticky, a little too unbelievable, a little goofy.
But it's so sweet.
No, it is very sweet. That, you know, without a doubt, it is very sweet movie.
I walked out of the movie going, aww. Like, that was my literal reaction once the credits started rolling.
You did your time like a man, Val. You were stand-up all the way.
You and Doc would have done the same.
Well, I would like to think so.
It's possible. Either way is possible. But you did it, Val.
They try a line between having scripted comedy and then having comedy, coming from these actors. And I think Christopher Walken and Alan Arkin, they're amazing. Al Pacino, he's good, but this isn't what he does regularly.
I know what you're saying, though. I think the issue is the script, though, and because the script, I said it earlier, but it's a little eager, it's a little idealistic and sweet for these two grittier actors, but then that first half hour, it's really expositional. So when Christopher Walken's character and Al Pacino's character get reunited, and they haven't seen each other for 28 years, it feels very false that they would just pick up their friendship out of nowhere.
It's choppy and it didn't work. It didn't feel as natural dialogue. But as soon as they got over that, that's when the film started to flow better.
Well, I mean, especially like you said, when Alan Arkin comes in, because it's really about these three guys. It's the three amigos, the three old...
reliving the glory days.
Yeah, the old gangsters reliving the old glory days. And it's funny. When you see Alan Arkin behind the wheel, you realize that he was the getaway guy.
I missed you. Mr. Hirsch. Remember me? I do this, huh?
Watching these three guys hang out and interact is the most fun thing in the world.
Well, they're having fun. That's what is really great. You can tell that
you want to watch them have fun.
Yeah, they're having their kicks, and it's great.
One of the best parts of the film, in my opinion, is the fact that they keep quoting the awesome movie, They Live.
What time is it? I don't know. What time is it?
It's time to kick ass or chew gum. And guess what? I'm all out of gum.
This film is directed by Fisher Stevens, who actually has a few features under his belt, and he helped produce The Cove, that great documentary a few years ago, but he's most well known for being an actor in Short Circuit.
I felt the tone of the movie was a little bit odd, and due in large part to the fact that these are three really big actors, and you have this, actor turned director who's trying to direct them. It's probably very difficult to be able to, one, stay on script, and then when they are trying to ad-lib and improv, to be able to rein them in and, say, oh, this is funny, this is not funny.
It's a lot of personality.
Yeah.
It's a lot of personality to wrangle in, and I see what you're saying about tone, but for me, I think it worked because it was so weird and so unexpectedly charming.
Along with that, we have cinematographer Michael Grady coming in and giving it this great old school mob feel. It's beautiful and it's dark and a little bit gritty.
There's like a 70s grit and cool.
Same thing with the music. The music also adds into that sort of feeling.
Stand Up Guys does have some funny moments, but not enough to warrant a see it in the theaters. Stream it.
Once Alan Arkin comes into frame, this film picks up to be a unique, sweet take on aging gangsters. And for that, I say, see it.
Despite being a little slow in the beginning, it picks up to be a really fun movie. See it.
Well, it looks like our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Stand Up Guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I'm all out of bubblegum.
Based on the novel by Jack Kerouac, Sal seeks inspiration for his writing.
To the good, demented men we love.
But his life is shaken up with the arrival of the free-spirited Dean and his young wife, Mary Lou.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I could go back to my fiance.
Fiance?
Together, they travel cross-country on a personal quest for freedom in On the Road.
Hi, I'm Brenna.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Salim, and we're here to talk about On the Road by director Walter Salles.
We've all just seen it. Let's get this review on the road.
We've seen crazy kids going out doing drugs and having fun. Yes, this book is the first story of doing that kind of stuff, and it's really important for that. But I didn't get that in this film. I didn't get the weight that this is a representation of an entire generation. I got just some kids going crazy, doing drugs, and having lots of sex.
One of the issues is it just kind of drops you into the story without really any background of the characters. We have Sal Paradise, who is our lead, and he's a writer who wants to live life and he wants to go on the road, but unfortunately he's very aimless, and so is the movie. It's constantly trying to find a story because the characters don't really know what they want. They just are trying to find life and find adventure.
Part of the skill of adapting a book is figuring out how to adapt something that works in the book medium to the film medium, and they kind of left a little bit of that behind when they did this. It's almost a literal adaptation.
I really like that these characters were sincerely trying to find themselves. And that's unusual for me. I haven't seen a lot of films like that.
For road movies, they have to be focused or else they're gonna be sprawling all over the place. And we're gonna have differing characters that we don't know who they are. They're just there for whatever reason. And then we go on to another instance. And it's unfortunate because I wanted to know who these people were.
Having to explain it would kind of be part of the establishment that these characters are trying to get away from. I think this film and its structure is bohemian.
It wasn't only because I was a writer and needed new experiences that I wanted to know Dean more, but because somehow he reminded me of some long-lost brother.
The overall theme with this film is finding, your place in life, finding your purpose. And it's also got a bit of live for the moment, because you're gonna be dead, you might be dead tomorrow, which is fun to watch. And it's entertaining to watch these people wander off and meet all these great characters. It's great to meet them. We meet Carlo, Sal's writing buddy, played by Tom Sturridge. And then you have Mary Lou, which is Dean's wife, who is played by Kristen Stewart. You have a character named Camille, played by Kirsten Dunst. You have Jane and Old Bull Lee, played by Viggo Mortensen and Amy Adams. And meeting these characters is what makes this film enjoyable.
I think the characters are written really richly and substantially. Even if we don't know who they are and what their purpose is in the story, I still feel like I'm seeing an entire life in each character, and I think that's exciting.
The characters are very fascinating, and I just wanted to know more. I wanted to get more into their life and their psyche and what's going on with them.
You didn't say you had a nice voice.
I don't have a nice voice.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Thanks. Are you staying in Denver very long?
I got the feeling I won't be staying very long.
Sam Riley really does a great job of portraying these characters, and he's just such an interesting actor that he brings so much to this character of Sal Paradise.
I loved Sam Riley, and I thought Garrett Hedlund was fantastic. I mean, there's these scenes where there's just like almost a flood of emotion behind his eyes when he's confessing or trying to reach out to Sal.
First time I saw him was in Tron Legacy, and that didn't challenge him that much. And I'm really happy that he was able to find a center for this movie and really bring the emotion. He was very present in a lot of his scenes.
The film is filled with all these celebrity cameos, and what was so great is they just had like a little chunk each, but these actors like Amy Adams and Viggo Mortensen really went out on a limb in every scene that they had, and I was also very impressed with that.
Viggo Mortensen, Amy Adams, Steve Buscemi, those were, for me, the most enjoyable parts of the film.
I thought Kristen Stewart was interesting in the movie. However, I felt her only role was the sex fiend, and mainly because her role wasn't really written all that well. She wasn't really given that much.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the entire point of her character, and she was actually at her best when she was playing the sex fiend, when she was in the sexual scenes. She was a little awkward when she had just normal dialogue.
I wish Dean wasn't so crazy now.
You could be wishing that the rest of your life.
I just want a house. Baby. Something normal. I really do want that.
Francis Ford Coppola bought the rights in 1980 for $98,000, and he was just sort of holding on to it until he could find a director that he liked enough to entrust with this sort of epic story. And then he saw the Motorcycle Diaries, and he was like, Walter Salles, you're the guy. And I completely agree with him. I think that was a great choice. I don't think this film is trying to appeal to a mass audience. I think it's trying to appeal to the people who would understand and appreciate the lack of focus, like the people who enjoy the books.
Or just people who like art house cinema. I mean, that is, I feel, the audience for this film. I love meandering films, and I love films with very little plot, and I think that's the audience.
They have these great shots of Dean just tearing up the road, going 90 miles an hour in this old car, and then swerving in and out of traffic, crossing bridges, and it's just absolutely breathtaking.
What was the most romantic part of it is that it made America look unexplored. The film would dip into images of class contrast, and Sal himself would work in the fields one day, and it almost made that look romantic, too. It was like a Terrence Malick film all of a sudden when it's really slave labor. But it was beautiful, and it was romantic, and it was nostalgic.
On the Road has some really fascinating characters, but unfortunately, there's too much road and not enough of anything else. Stream it.
On the Road is a great film to hide in for 2 hours, so I say sneak a flask into the theaters and see it.
On the Road is a beautiful film with some great performances, but it's an old story that we've seen before, and it really doesn't do anything with the weight of the book that it's based off of, so I say stream it.
Well, it looks like our votes add up to 2 full tickets, which is a stream it for On the Road. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
I still really liked it.
Our DVD pick of the week is actually 2 very different films. First, Bradley Cooper's The Words.
There he is, a dumb kid wondering what the future held. He wanted to be a writer, but the words just wouldn't come.
And also the graphic novel remake, Dread.
800 million people living in the ruin of the old world. Only one thing fighting for order in the chaos. The men and women of the Hall of Justice.
When we reviewed both these movies in the fall, we gave them a see it. Also out on DVD and streaming this week are David Cronenberg's Cosmopolis and Tim Burton's Frankenweenie, and we gave both of those movies a stream it. But be careful, when you give the kids the DVD, make sure you give them Frankenweenie and keep Cosmopolis for yourself. So there you have it, 4 DVD picks for your home theater enjoyment.
Since the tragedy of 9/11, the U.S. government has been tracking its mastermind, Osama bin Laden.
We're still no closer to defeating our enemy.
No birth certificate, no cell phone. You guys are a ghost.
But after a decade of searching, a CIA operative is convinced that she knows where he hides.
You don't think she's a little young for the hard stuff?
Washington says she's a killer.
So a Navy SEAL team is sent to capture the world's most wanted terrorist in Zero Dark 30.
Hi, I'm Salim.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Liz, and we're here today to discuss the follow-up to Kathryn Bigelow's Oscar-winning film, The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. We've all just seen it. Sean, why don't you start?
Zero Dark 30 means 30 minutes after midnight. It's a military term, and it's about the events that led up to the killing of Osama bin Laden. We start from 9/11, and we span nearly 10 years until we finally found him, and the Navy SEALs went and killed him. Jessica Chastain plays Maya, who's a CIA agent obsessed with finding bin Laden, and she does. And it's mesmerizing. It's really gripping drama. I was sucked into this movie the whole way. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. I didn't feel the length at all. The pacing is really well done, and it's quite a piece of cinema.
I agree. It's a mesmerizing movie. It's not maybe as entertaining as The Hurt Locker, but it's still very, very relevant to what's going on now.
Hurt Locker is definitely more of a character piece, and this revolves around a theme, and it revolves around politics and political events, and I think it revolves around the theme of intimidation.
It's interesting because it's very ambiguous how Kathryn Bigelow is in terms of torture, where her opinions lie.
I feel the movie's apolitical. I don't think that it's trying to make a political argument one way or another. It's basically chronicling events, and the events that led to the killing of Osama bin Laden, you have to chronicle the detainee interrogations. I mean, they were a critical part of it, and you can't argue that the system in which they found bin Laden, which was through this courier system of people who actually were speaking directly to bin Laden and basically carrying out his tasks while he was away in this compound, they were found through this enhanced interrogation technique. So that's a vital part of the story, and she has to chronicle that. I don't know if she's putting a stamp on how she feels about it one way or another.
I do feel like I can't figure out the politics of the film, but I wouldn't say that it is apolitical, because when I'm watching this movie and I'm feeling a forward progression regarding finding bin Laden, and then Obama comes in and it feels like his election is thwarting the progress of the narrative of the film, I start to feel a little bit of tension in the film against Obama, and so I'm trying to figure that out myself.
What I thought was interesting is that it was very matter of fact, this is a president, like one of the characters says, who wants all the information before they proceed. Probably what you were looking for in terms of trying to figure out what her stance is on this. This president has to have all the information before making such a huge decision.
Well, also, it's just Jessica Chastain is so amazing, and she has this intense drive to find bin Laden that you want to find bin Laden because Jessica Chastain wants to find bin Laden.
That's very true.
Yeah, and you feel that she is on her own, basically. Yeah. No one is with her, and Chastain really embodies that extremely well, and maybe it's not the most developed character. Like we said, the character development is not the point of view of this movie. It's a procedural in a way. It's not necessarily about the characters, it's about the process, but Chastain is a great entity to sort of carry us along throughout the story.
And I love that this is a female character who doesn't have a romantic interest, who's competent and smart, and there's no excuse for that.
He's living in a city. Living in a city with multiple points of egress and entry, access to communications, so that he can keep in touch with the organization. You can't run a global network of interconnected cells from a cave.
Let's talk about the supporting cast a little bit. There's Kyle Chandler, who plays pretty much the same exact role he played in Argo.
Right, from Friday Night Lights.
From Friday Night Lights, exactly.
You're in luck. I got you one-on-one with Faraj.
Seriously? Thank
Don't you thank me until you hear what I want for it. I want you to take care of all this before your favorite subject.
Deal.
Joel Edgerton, who plays a Navy SEAL, and he gets
Yes.
third billied. Third billied, and he's barely in the movie, but he gets third billied because he's Joel Edgerton.
And you know who gets more lines than him?
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt from
Pratt.
Parks and Recreation. I was very shocked to see him in this role.
But he was believable as a Navy SEAL.
Yes, strangely enough,
Yeah, so I thought that worked really well.
It's slower than a Black Hawk, lacks the offense and the stability, but it can hide.
So, hey, excuse me, but what do we need this for in Libya? I mean, Gaddafi's anti-air is virtually non-existent.
It was a great cast, and they're directed very well by Catherine Bigelow.
Some people wanted to discredit her, that she
Right.
wasn't really the force that made the Hurt Locker such a success.
Which is such a shame, because you can see this theme of pessimism about human nature go throughout her films. Like, there actually is this auteur stamp thematically on her films.
And I think she's probably the most successful at making movies about Afghanistan or Iraq, considering how difficult these movies are to make and be successful. And I think the reason why they're successful is because of the ambiguity that she brings to them. And I know a lot of people might not like that, but I think that's what makes these movies work.
The last 45 minutes of the movie, I don't know how if that's true or not, but it certainly felt true. The realistic nature of that was presented on screen extremely well.
Some people probably got in trouble for leaking a little bit of information.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
An intense movie from start to finish, which may be a little less entertaining than The Hurt Locker, but will stay with you for some time after. See it.
Zero Dark 30 is a clinical exploration paired with an amazing performance by goddess Jessica Chastain. I say, see it.
Zero Dark 30 is a thrilling follow-up to The Hurt Locker and one of the year's best films. See it.
Yay!
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now I need to catch up on Zero Dark 1 through 29.
If this is your first time catching Just Seen It, then welcome to the show. Because we're working industry professionals, we know how hard it is to make a movie or TV show. So when we give you a review, it's always fair and respectful. If we give a movie a see it, that means it's worthy a trip to the theater. If not, then we'll give it a stream it, which means that it might still be a good movie to catch at home. If we give the movie a skip it, we don't do it lightly. It means that all three reviewers agree that with all the entertainment choices you have, this movie is not worth your time or money. We hope you'll enjoy watching our show and that we really do give you reviews that you can use. Thanks, and see you next week.
On our next episode of Just Seen It, we are all about TV and review some of the new mid-season pilots, including NBC's Deception, The Following on Fox, and ABC's Red Widow, plus many more. Thanks for watching, and see you next week. I'm here to kick butt and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.